After focusing on Malthus, Sadler, Lebensstein's theory of population growth, let's move on to some other less heard but important population growth theories which can be broadly classified for our simplicity into three heads. Those are the biological theories, cultural theories and economic theories. So under biological theories, we would be discussing three major theories today. The first is the Doubleday diet theory. Now this theory is interesting, which says fertility is inversely proportional to the food supply. That means the region where you have lesser food supply, higher fertility is seen, and he explained this with the example of birds, saying that the thin and the lean birds have higher number of offsprings as compared to the fat birds that are there. The next is the Jose de Castro's protein consumption theory. His consumption theory is again, the protein consumption theory is again biological in nature and has been explained in his work Geography of Hunger. A very important question commonly asked the author of Geography of Hunger. So Jose de Castro is an answer. Now again, according to him, the food supply increases, the growth of the population would decline, and this is related to the proportion of protein. So higher protein in the diet leads to reduction in fertility, and protein in the diet is inversely proportional to fertility rate. That was his idea. The last theory is the Corrado-Guinness theory. The Corrado-Guinness theory talks about the concept that the population is totally biological, as and when poor people gets rich, the rate of fertility declines, and this is biological. There is no other basis for declining fertility with a same poor person moving into a higher economic strata. So those are the three biological theories that were propounded. The next interesting theory is by Dumont, that is the social capillarity theory. As we have seen, the social capillarity theory is the basis for the Lebensstein's motivational theory as well, and therefore Dumont's theory is very important. He strongly believed that the population growth would decline with social development. So population growth would be declining with social development, and that was the basis that he focused on. Now his principle of population divided world into three stages. The primitive stage, where he said, was something similar to what Malthus said, and where the people used to find the food, they had more population that started to grow there. So the population growth was geometric in nature. The second stage, according to the Dumont, was the stage where you had the Quillard's principle of population, which says that population proportions automatically. That means where there is more food, you would have more people going in, population increases. As the food supply reduces, the population reduces. So population automatically balances itself, and that was the second stage according to Dumont. So first stage, the ancient stage based on Malthus' perspective, so that was a geometric growth in population. The second stage on Quillard's perspective, that showed that population automatically proportions itself. And then you had the third stage, that was the modern civilized society, and which says that every individual wants to achieve a social higher economic status, and in the process of achieving a social status, a higher social status, person or people are more engaged into their profession, and when in the process of climbing this social ladder, they reduce or they see a reduction in the fertility rate. So that is where social capillarity theory was explained by Dumont. The next is Spencer's theory. Now Spencer's theory is also known as the complexity theory. Now this complexity theory is important. This complexity theory says man has limited amount of energy. If that amount of energy is used for self-development, the energy available for the child and the growth of the child gets reduced. So people who are more career oriented, in very simple words, or who are more job oriented or want to grow themselves in social development or economic development would have reduced offsprings, and that is the Herbert Spencer's complexity theory. So that is based on the cultural aspect. The next is the two theories which are purely economical. Now Lassie's iron law of wage is an interesting theory which says that people, let's say factory workers, if we take the example of factory workers, they would have job in the factory. Now what would happen if there are lots of people competing for the same job? The wages would go down for these workers, the wages would keep on going down at a point where you have the subsistence level, or the level where a person can maintain his minimum lifestyle. Only beyond that point a person would think of reproduction and fertility, and that is the Lassie's iron law of wages. That means a minimum subsistence wage is required for a person to think about children. The next is Uralinis and Strumlin's fertility and labor force participation. This theory says that utility maximization models of the households decision making in the West have a significant impact on the labor workforce participation. That means that children have a significant impact on the female labor force participation. Higher the number of children, lower is the female workforce participation. And therefore, based on the labor force participation, the fertility is governed, and that is purely economic motive that has been seen. So these three criteria under which we have discussed, these 7 theories of population growth, are less heard of but very important to understand. Population and the growth theories indeed have been an integral part of the human civilization from the day the human civilization started. So a very important section that you must cover, and all these theories and the associated scholars for those are important for your examination point of view. We would be bringing many such interesting concepts for you. Have a wonderful day ahead.